Red Menace. We're a comedy news podcast bringing you the latest and greatest stories from inside. My name's Chris Bolson.
And I'm Alison Hoare.
I said that introductory thing with real FM drive time radio energy.
Is that the energy we're going for right now? FM drive time?
Well, that's really what podcasts are. It's just like...
I suppose so.
Our podcast specifically is essentially like talkback radio, but without the phone calls. So
right,
we
exactly.
we do the same shit as our good friends Kyle and Jackie O do.
Oh God. But we don't have competitions for people to win thousands of dollars, which is probably where we're going wrong.
And we're also not actively racist. So
which is where we're going right, I would say.
But we do have to start having a competition. So people should phone in and we'll give you a prize that will be TBD.
If you phone in while we're recording this, you don't know what time we're recording it.
Oh, I love that.
Then you can get a prize.
If you DM the podcast on Twitter when we're recording the podcast, just through guesswork, I will give you a prize.
No promises of the monetary value of said prize,
but it will exist in some format, digital or physical.
Sure.
Big news in my life. I am going through the process of adopting a cat.
Beautiful. Just what I like to hear.
Yeah, because I recently went through a breakup, so, it's what you do.
Replacing human love with animal love.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sick and tired of these people, and I just want a small, infinitely cuddleable creature that depends on me and me alone. Is that so much to ask?
That will die if you don't feed it.
Exactly. I want a living Tamagotchi, but one that you can hug.
Right.
So the cat adoption process is not dissimilar in the age of Roni from online dating.
Tell me more.
Well, my understanding of the cat adoption process before the Roni was you go to the shelter, you look around, you meet some cats, you essentially do like a chemistry screen test.
Sure.
With these cats, like see which ones you're vibing with. That is not an option nowadays. Because you'll give all the poor RSPCA folks Roni.
Sure, exactly. And all the cats, maybe.
And all the cats could get Roni too, who knows. So now what you do is you go to the RSPCA website, you put in your location. It does not geolocate you. You have to figure out where you are based on like a statewide list, and a lot of them don't have relevant information. I eventually figured out I'm quite close to the Yaguna pet shelter.
Sure.
So I'm that one. And then up comes a dating website series of like profile pictures of all these cats.
Some of the cats are there like leaning on their car, some are like holding up a big fish, some have like, a bunch of other cats in the photo and you have to figure out which cat is the one you're applying for.
I mean, they're all posed in actively cute positions. I feel like there was like a photo shoot for each of these cats.
Probably.
Trying to be like, get them in the right way, the right shape.
How do you become the RSPCA cat photographer to take a photo of the cats looking cute?
Well, here's my thing. I think because it's obviously all done relatively impromptu because of the Roni, I think that they just reached out to whoever does like their Twitter account or whatever, and they were like, you know media stuff, right? Can you take photos of all of these cats?
And make these cats look cute as fuck.
Make these cats sexy.
Get their best angles. Chuck the the Snapchat dog filter over the cats, whatever it takes to get these cats a forever home.
But yeah, the lingo is different. So it's not like dating apps where it's like, I'm so tall because apparently that matters. Haha. It's
fucking hell.
It's more like I'm a really cute sweet boy and I love to climb on things and I'm just looking for a mummy and daddy to love me forever.
Oh my God.
At which point I stab myself in the face because it's insufferable. But I'm
a really cute sweet boy. But actually that wouldn't be dissimilar to some dating apps. Just not the ones that I would say most people are using.
I get big weeaboo vibes from a lot of the language. But the much like dating apps, you got to play the game.
Sure.
You've got to
meet the cats, the energy that they're putting out.
Exactly. So when I responded to an email I received about a cat that I might potentially get, I was like, oh, Tim seems like a really sweet boy. He just needs a little bit more love and care than usual, which is more sincere than I would usually be comfortable being. But, you've got to really...
You can't be sarcastic to get a cat.
Like when you're trying to get yourself a little bit of sugar, you got to put your heart on the line to get a cat, apparently. You got to let him see what's inside.
You have to be willing to be vulnerable.
To get a cat, yes.
Sure.
But what's also fun is that there's a similar sort of hierarchy system that functions with the way it works on dating services. So, like, on dating services, there's a supply and demand issue.
Right, I see, yeah.
Where, like, 10% of people have 90% of people interested in them.
Sure.
And vice versa. And then the other 10% are just, like, they have to try real hard.
Right.
And you get a similar vibe with cats. Like, all of the cute little kittens, they go up on the site. Within 24 hours, they're gone from the site. Mm-hmm. Because they've got people just sort of watching voraciously the moment a kitten appears.
Oh, absolutely. They refresh. They refresh for kittens.
I mean, have I been doing that? Yes. Because literally I had a 2-hourly alarm reminder because I was getting so many, I'm sorry, this cat is already gone emails. I just got another one. Not related.
Oh, and another one just popped through.
Not even fucking with you. I got another.
Yeah, well, it looks like they texted in when the podcast was going, so I guess they win the prize.
So, RSPCA, Pet Barn. Oh, no, that's a different thing. Never mind.
Okay.
It is still from the RSPCA. It's just them calling me an idiot for applying for this one when I should have just gone to the Pet Barn. Their website's very confusing.
Sure.
But anyway, it's not dissimilar from trying to find a lover, trying to find an emotional cat lover. Yeah, that's all of the story. Do you have a story for me?
Shall we go into some news? This is a story that I think actually 3 different friends sent through to me. So I feel like I'm obliged to share this one with you, Chris. Mm-hmm. This is from the BBC.
Okay.
And it says, men hired for sexual fantasy break into wrong house.
Oh, yes.
I
want you to drip feed this. Spoon feed it to me, Alison.
For the picture that they've included, right, they've just included a random Getty Images stock photo of a broom. And underneath the picture of the broom, it says, a broom was the key element in the fantasy.
I don't like where this is going.
That's the picture that they've included there. Okay, sure. This is from the BBC, but this happened in Australia, Chris.
That's concerning, but I am excited to hear how it pans out.
Oh, absolutely. So let me read into this one a bit for you. In a sex fantasy gone wrong, 2 men with machetes entered the wrong house in New South Wales, Australia, before quickly realising their error. One of them has now been acquitted of entering a home armed with a weapon in July 2009, Australian media report.
What a wild... Like, when the person confronts you, you have to be like, oh, fuck, sorry, no, I thought it was wrong house. It was a sex thing, I don't want your stuff.
Right, I don't want to steal anything from you. This is all part of the game, part of the role play that we're doing here.
Oh, God.
They had been hired to carry out a client's fantasy of being tied up in his underwear and stroked with a broom.
Very specific, but all right, know yourself.
Each to their own. I mean, he knows what he likes, right? He likes people breaking into his house, tying him up and stroking him with a broom.
I think very few people, we all have these deep down dark desires, but very few people are willing to go out and hire someone to do it to them. So I kind of respect the gumption.
What I want to know, Chris, is like, clearly this is a very specific fantasy.
Yes.
How did he know that this is something he's into?
Well, I mean, he's had that dream every night for the last 10 years.
Okay, sure. So he knows that. The judge concluded that the facts of the case are unusual.
I love that. I love when judges just have to be like, you guys are fucking weird.
This is not great.
The one time I did jury duty, the judge did his little statement before we went and did the deliberation. And a large part of what he said was like, so a lot of the testimony you've heard here today is obviously bullshit.
Right.
In not so many words, but that was the gist of what he was saying.
Sure.
Spoilers, those two men are in prison for a while now.
Yeah.
Anyway, please proceed. I just thought it was a funny story.
The roleplay was arranged over Facebook by a man near Griffith, New South Wales, who provided his address to the hired pair.
On brand, Griffith.
On brand, Griffith. He was willing to pay Australian dollars 5,000 if it was...
Holy shit.
Yeah, 5,000 Australian dollars if it was really good, the judge said.
How does this... What is the metric for this?
Well, the broom stroking. I don't know how you judge the broom stroking, but...
I'm just imagining a guy looking up like YouTube tutorials on how to broom stroke so he can get all of his money.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'll do this. But maybe it's like the kidnapping bit that has to be good. So maybe like, you know, the two guys practiced kidnapping on each other first so they could get the kidnapping really down to the wire.
Maybe that's why they were breaking into this first house, so they could like really practice breaking into a home so that like when they did it on the real one, they got it super right.
Well, Chris, on that note, how do you think this whoopsie of them showing up to the wrong address happened?
So it could be the one next door, could be an apartment complex, could be read the number incorrectly. Sometimes a 4 looks like a 7, who knows?
Yeah. Well, actually, you're quite wrong, because what in fact happened...
Oh, God.
It said the client moved to another address 50 kilometres away without updating the two men. They then entered a home on the street of the original address.
Jesus.
It's like you've gone to the effort, right? You found these men who will do this sexual fantasy for you. They're going to show up at your house and they're like, I've just got a little bit of a move happening. You move house and you don't update the two men.
Well, okay, I'm going to assume, based on the fact that the money was conditional on it being really good, that he hadn't paid them yet.
Right.
So I have a theory, which is that, so there's another podcast that I listen to called My Brother and Me that, if I'm being honest, is a bit of an inspiration for this one. I'd say we are somewhat derivative of them.
Probably a lot of podcasts are somewhat derivative of a better podcast.
But that's true.
Life. That's how it goes.
They had a recurring bit where people would send in questions to them and be like, I've done this really embarrassing thing, what do I do? And they'd be like, you just got to pack your bags and move away, dude.
I've offered, someone's offered to tie me up and stroke me with a broom because I asked for that to be done.
I'm just imagining, like, they send in a question, it's like, I got super high and put on WeWork. I want someone to come break into my house and stroke me with a broom, but I don't actually want this. How do I get out of it? And the answer is you move.
Just leave.
You can't deal with this. It's too embarrassing.
You've got to break the lease, lose your deposit. It's okay, but at least you don't have to pay these men who are coming over to stroke you with a broom.
The deposit is less than $5,000, so it's all in things considered a good value.
Right, exactly. And you don't want to have to contact these dudes and be like, hey guys, can you maybe not kidnap me and stroke me with a broom? Because that's not what I want anymore.
Well, part of the contract that he signed did say no take backsies. So
they did a pinky promise.
Exactly.
Yeah. When the resident noticed a light on in his kitchen at 6:15, he assumed it was a friend who came by daily to make morning coffee. Can I just say, Chris, this part of the story was also fucking weird to me.
That's a very good friendship. Holy shit.
Allows their friend to come in every morning to make coffee in their house.
I wouldn't allow my friends... me and my friends have a recurring bit where when people come over to my house, I'll be like, come over sometime after 3 p.m. because that's a good buffer zone for me to know, like, I'm sure I'll be decent and safe.
Sure.
Like, 6 a.m.?
There's
a good chance I'm going to be either in the shower nude, sound asleep, or just, like, profoundly grumpy at that time, you know?
Here's the thing, right? I think this other resident, he also has a sexual fantasy. And it involves coffee being made. Like, it's not really like, you know, it's not a big fantasy, but he does get a bit of a turn on from someone using his coffee machine in the morning while he is in bed. It's like, it's his thing.
The moment the friend leaves, he jerks it out so right.
It's like, that's the explanation there. That's why he does this. And you know what?
And that's fine.
Each to their own. No kink shaming here. But he had another person's fantasy tied in on this, and he's like, oh, it's just my morning coffee fantasy, man. Oh, wait, no, it's some kidnapped broomstrokers, which isn't ideal.
That would be a really terrible way to learn that you're into being kidnapped and broomstroked. You really want to be able to plan that shit out in advance.
Now let me continue, because this is where we get into more details about the situation as it unfolded. When the men called out the name of their client, the resident turned on the light and removed a sleep apnea mask he was wearing. It was then that he saw them standing above his bed with the machetes, which they appeared to have brought as props for the role play. Very organised, very
That's
prepared.
commitment.
When they realised their error, one of the pair said, sorry, mate, and shook the resident's hand, according to local reports.
Oh my god.
The two men then drove to the correct address, where the client noticed one man had a great big knife in his trousers and asked them to leave the weapons in their car.
I mean, you don't want to... When I go to work, I don't bring a knife just because I thought it would add to the experience.
Right.
You know?
Well, these guys did. They thought, this is going to be great.
I'm just going to go to KFC and I'm just going to bring a gun because I think it might just like improve the ambiance of the scene, you know?
Now, so this is all unfolded. This has happened. And the man with the great big knife in his trousers and the other man have arrived at the client's house.
Euphemism.
You know. The client then proceeded to cook bacon, eggs, and noodles for the kidnappers. And a short time later, the police arrived at the property, found the machetes in the car, and arrested the hired pair. The judge ruled that the evidence did not suggest the men's actions were intentional. They carried the machetes either as props or something to use in that fantasy, he said. The fantasy was unscripted and there was discretion as to how it would be carried out.
So, wait, so they were at the correct house when it actually happened, or they were at a second incorrect house?
When they were arrested, I believe they were at the client's house.
Okay. Firstly, what a wild thing of, I want you to come into my house and consensually assault me with a broom. And then when you're like, well, what do you want me to do? Anything specific? Just be like, I don't know, surprise me.
Surprise me. And then they show up and they're ready to surprise you with their machetes. You're like, are you guys hungry? Put some eggs in.
I mean, he's already moved away and then called the cops on them. So, like...
The other guy whose house they went into called the cops.
Oh, okay.
So the original person whose house they showed up to accidentally was like, I should probably call the police. This is a little bit weird.
That's a reasonable reaction to that situation.
I feel like it is too. I'm just going to read the last line of this because this is the kind of explanation of why this wasn't a crime in the end. A lawyer for Terence Leroy, one of the accused, said it was a commercial agreement to tie up and stroke a semi-naked man in his underpants with a broom. Entry was not with the intent to intimidate.
We live in a society, man.
It's okay, Chris. It wasn't anything. It was a commercial agreement to tie up and stroke a semi-naked man in his underpants with a broom. That's all.
It's
Nothing
amazing how
it.
the moment you describe anything vaguely sexual with words, it becomes so profoundly unsexy. I think that's quite impressive.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'm not sure how sexy it would be in the first place to be semi-naked and tied up and stroked with a broom. But, each to their own.
I don't get the appeal of the broom. It must be a thematic thing.
Here's the thing. If you're going to be hiring people off the internet to tie you up and stroke you with a broom, please update them when you change your address. This is just the lesson to be learnt here.
Can I give you a story that is in... I don't think it's got as many legs as that. Doesn't have 8 legs or however many like that one does.
That had a lot of legs. That's got a lot.
It's on a not dissimilar thing.
There are at least 6 legs involved in that incident.
Yeah. So this is, again, similar theme. So this is...
Christ.
Something I just found. This is on ABC News.
Sure.
Tinder to blame for surge in gonorrhea transmission in Adelaide, researchers say.
Oh, dear.
And then the headline was Tinderia.
Fuck.
Which is the lone reason I clicked on this is Tinderia, obviously.
Awful. I hate what I just heard. That's the worst pun that we've
You don't like
talked about.
Tinderia?
Like diarrhea, gonorrhea.
Gonorrhea. Different.
But it could be, here's the thing, right? When you click
Did I
that, it
have
could
to
be
look up-
gonorrhea, or it could be diarrhea, and it's Tinder diarrhea, which could also not be ideal.
Well, I mean, I guess if you go on like a Tinder date to like a Taco Bell or something.
Sure, sure.
I did have to look up what gonorrhea was because I didn't actually know.
I'm sorry, you don't know what gonorrhea is?
Well, I know now. I just didn't know
how
specifically
do I know
which.
this? What gonorrhea is?
I knew that it was an STD. I just didn't know what the symptoms of it were.
Sure, I know that you can get gonorrhea of the eye. Not from experience, but because in high school that was a meme, was gonorrhea of the eye in my high school.
Is that just like pink eye?
Well, essentially, yeah.
All right. A surge in gonorrhea transmission rates among young people in Adelaide has been blamed on dating apps, including Tinder.
In Adelaide,
Adelaide
see.
specifically.
Rightio. Well, it tracks. Adelaideans,
Horny,
what are you
so
doing?
Horny. Irresponsibly horny.
Absolutely.
And could be an early indicator of a likely rise in other sexually transmitted infections, researchers say. A Flinders University investigation based on public health data found transmission rates of gonorrhea in Adelaide more than doubled from 2012 to 2017. The study, published in the medical journal Sexually Transmitted Diseases, love that that's a medical journal that exists, says a lot about our society,
Sure.
also found the crude infection rate, the number of new cases per year, jumped from 21.9 per 100,000 people to 74 over the past 5 years.
Oh boy.
This is probably something to do with changes in sexual behaviour. Flinders University epidemiologist...
Oh, you don't say. What?
Epidemiologist and co-author Dr. Emma Miller said...
Oh dear.
Dr. Miller said evidence suggested dating apps were causing an increase in short-term and often one-sided relationships, and dubbed the resulting rise in STI rates Tinderia. So this is a term she has coined. This is not a journalism.
Like that. I do think it wasn't the journalist that made that.
No, so the journalist has actually done, I think, good job in minimising the instances of the word Tinderia.
Like this term is very bad.
Because you know their editor was like, it's Tinderia, why have you not put Tinderia in it more? And the journalist has been like, I just can't fit it in anymore. There's not enough words.
There's not enough words. Also, my byline is on this, and I do not want my name associated with the word Tinderia.
Let me just check someone's byline is on this. Yes, it is. I'm not going to read out that person's name for their dignity's sake, but...
For the dignity of they had to type that unwillingly. That wasn't their own pun. They don't deserve to be held accountable for that one.
Because you don't have a social connection with those people, there's not as much attention paid to consequences and what might come afterwards, she said. They seem to be associated, therefore, with unprotected sex.
Okay. Sure.
Which is, honestly worrying to me as someone who has used these dating apps and, not to give too much information away, has always insisted upon said protection because I'm not a dipshit.
Because STDs.
Because I don't want Tinderia or a child.
Right, exactly. And that's not ideal.
Neither of those things are good for me and my whole situation.
Tiny Tim the cat is not ready for a human sibling yet.
No, Tiny Tim the cat I have got as an emotional substitute for a lot of these things.
For a partner, for a child, for a fulfilling job.
Exactly. Now that my antidepressants mean that I'm not particularly horny, my dream is that I just won't need to date ever.
Perfect.
And I can just become a cat man.
Well, that's wonderful.
The study supports previous research showing increases in gonorrhea and syphilis, and Dr. Miller said the biggest rises were among people younger than 40, especially those aged in their 20s.
It's kind of somewhat relieving, though, Chris, in a way, because...
What is, Alison?
The fact that it's people younger than 40, because if this was a spike in cases in, 50 and 60-year-olds, it might be a little bit yucky.
I would kind of love that, though, because then I could just be like, have at it, and we could clear out some of the boomers.
Chris, no. Let's not get into eugenics in our podcast.
You know what? Good point.
We're getting into eugenics territory there. Let's press
This is
on.
where I've been pushed to, man.
Let's press on. Let's press on.
These people might not have as much access to health services, to preventative services. They might not have as much money to spend on actually going to gyms and occupying their time in ways that people from higher socioeconomic areas can do. Don't see how going to gyms is related to they fuck more. If anything, that seems counterproductive to
Maybe
that.
it's because if they don't go to they go to the gym, does that mean they fuck more or less?
He's insinuating that if you go to the gym, you fuck less.
Well, maybe that's because people are doing the do for exercise because they can't afford a gym membership.
That's very creative. Seems like a lot of work.
When you could just do like a bunch of push-ups
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the alleyway or something like that.
That's all sex is push-ups with someone underneath you.
I suspect if that's what you're doing for sex,
If that's my move, that might explain some things.
might explain some.
It also uncovered significant rises in transmission rates among young heterosexuals.
Sure.
The study demonstrates the changing epidemiology of gonorrhea in Adelaide from largely men who have sex with men profile towards an increase in young heterosexual gonorrhea.
Young heterosexual gonorrhea.
That
Wonderful.
sounds like the name of a heavy metal album. Or I can even see that being a band. Like, you're like, hey, we're young heterosexual gonorrhea.
And
This
then,
is
like,
our...
you make that as the band name when you don't think you're going to be that successful. And then when
This
you...
is a song from our debut album, Spunk Bag. I hope you really like it.
And then Spunk Bag, like, hits the charts. and it
Blows
just...
up. It's a
And then
big
you're
on the
like,
Triple J.
and then you become really popular as your band, and you're like, well, fuck, I'm stuck with this name now. And then 10 years down the track, you know, you're all a lot more mature. You're doing more like garage rock, you know, more like dad rock, but you still got young heterosexual gonorrhea as your name, and you're stuck with that.
The song titles, I love the idea that the song titles never age, though. It's just like, hey, this is our new song, Existential Shit Stain. And, like, I'm having a lot of fun coming up with these.
Oh, God. Just make a band, Chris. Start a band, young heterosexual gonorrhea.
That's what I'm
Album,
going to
Spunk
start.
Bag.
All of my just, like, really high-quality electronic music is going to be released under that name from now on. But I'm going to come up with some, like, angsty lyrics to put over the top of it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Dr. Miller said that while the coronavirus pandemic had led to widespread social distancing, it could also have the opposite effect on some, and may have increased the popularity of dating apps. There has been recent information that people are actually using those apps more than they were.
That's not a shock.
It may be that there is going to be an explosion of this once people are out and about, which is essentially suggesting that we're going to have the gonorrhea equivalent of a second baby boom once the Roni is over, which is terrifying.
Right. In Adelaide specifically.
In Adelaide specifically, because
Right.
Now, what do you think it is about Adelaide that makes them just so dang horny?
I don't know.
Because I've been to Adelaide exactly twice.
Right.
It seemed like a nice enough place. The first time I went there was as a kid. I got a puzzle that I was very excited about. Second time I went there was on the way to an internship in rural South Australia with my friend Melody. We hung out in Chinatown for like 2 hours and then got on a plane. It was fine.
It was fine.
We met up with her friend that she knew, and I got a real strong vibe that friend only wanted to hang out with her and not with me, which was hurtful, but also fair. She's more pleasant than I am.
Was that friend a man or a woman?
It was a man.
Of
Unsurprising.
course it was. I don't know what it is about Adelaide, but of course I've only been there once as a kid on like a holiday, but everything about Adelaide gives me like big heterosexual vibes.
Interesting. There's a lot of churches. That's the thing they're famous for.
I don't know why it is that. Like, if you're from Adelaide and you're not heterosexual, good for
Why
you.
Why are you in Adelaide?
But
is
also,
the question.
all the famous media commentators and stuff I know from Adelaide as well are very heterosexual.
Do you think maybe once there was like a gay exodus from Adelaide?
Well, if
that is just like all of the Adelaide gays were like, you know what? Fuck this place. We're going to Melbourne or wherever, somewhere cooler.
Somewhere cool. But even like some like countryside places, you're like, okay, this is like, this is gay. This is a bit gay. That's good. But
Not to get back into the eugenics territory, but I think we do need to create a small Australian country town of entirely gay people, because I think that's going to be a pretty fucking cool place.
as anyway, let's press on. Let's press on.
Do you have a story for me, Alison?
Yeah, let's get into this one. This is a property investor story because we love talking about property on here.
All right, sorry, just give me a sec. I'm just getting into the anger.
Get into the rage that you're going to be here. This is from... Oh, actually, no, because this has got some satisfying parts in it, Chris, which I think you'll be satisfied with, as well as anger.
Will believe that when I hear it.
Mixed
but
emotions.
proceed.
But I'm reading from realestate.com.au, but this story is originally from the Daily Telegraph.
Oh,
And
goody.
it says, investor with 200 plus properties bags 6 more homes during COVID-19 and wants even more.
I immediately want to punch, I assume it's a him, in the dick.
Oh, yeah. The picture that we've got here is the man in question, the dude in question. He's very white. His name's Nathan Birch. And he's
It's
leaning...
a very, very white name too, huh?
Yeah, he's leaning on his car outside his house.
What kind of car is it, Alison? Does it look like a...
It's got... Chris, I don't know car logos. But can I
Neither
describe...
do I, but just
can I
give me a
describe the car
visual...
logo?
Yeah.
It looks like like a rich person car, firstly. It's got that aesthetic.
That's what the logo looks
But
like.
the logo has like a little shield in the middle and some wings attached to it. I don't know
Yeah,
what...
I don't know what that is.
Car logo shield with wings. I'm going to search that.
Car logo shield with wings.
Car logo shield with wings wasn't returning any promising searches.
Oh no, I'm going to assume then that's Toyo Hyundai.
Car logo shield with wings. I'll do it again. This time with the internet working.
Sazulden.
Sazulden. Let's have a look. I don't know. Maybe it's an Aston Martin. Maybe it's
An Aston Benz. A
maybe it's
Mercedes
a-
Martin. That's a cool
Mus-
name. Mercedes Martin. That's like a
Mercedes
cool...
Martin.
That's an OC character name right there.
Anyway, it's an expensive car. It's a rich person car that he would put... This picture that realestate.com.au has chosen as the headline picture would be his cover photo on Tinder.
Cool.
Cool. A former Mount Druitt resident who already owned more than 200 properties has snapped up 6 more homes during the COVID-19 crisis.
I want to piss on his windscreen.
I like how they put former Mount Druitt resident there to imply that, like, he's just an everyday dude, Chris.
But it also has the implicit started from the bottom kind of vibe.
Right,
where they're trying to
exactly.
be like, he comes from Mount Druitt.
Mount
Yuck.
Druitt. Disgusting.
That's where the paws live.
Right, exactly. Prominent investor Nathan Birch, 35, said he was preparing for another buying spree despite being $18 million in debt because of the yes, because the economic downturn was creating unprecedented property investment opportunities.
That makes me feel a lot better about my financial situation.
I don't own 200 properties, but also I'm not $18 million in debt.
No, my debt number is lower than that. I
My
don't
debt
own any
number
properties.
is significantly lower than his debt, so each to their own. Also, follow-up point, why would the bank continue to loan him money if he's got $18 million debt? I don't
Maybe
know
his
how the
car
economy
is
works.
his car is worth $19 million.
I don't know how the economy and, like, money works, but surely that's a lot of debt.
I feel
Is
like
it?
maybe he knows someone. Maybe he's like fucking the right person or something like that.
Sure,
you know?
probably. This is what he says. He says, I'm buying everything I can get my hands on. Nothing compares to the opportunities we're going to get, he said, adding that he hopes to purchase another 20 to 30 properties over 2020.
Can I just say that I really love the delivery of that line you just gave because it really sounded like he was jerking off while he said it,
Oh,
which
he
I'm
was.
100% sure he
That's
was.
why I was doing the voice acting in such a way.
No, it was
because-
it was compelling
Right,
and
exactly,
convincing.
exactly. I hoped I put that picture in your mind. So
You got real horny man energy, and I
He
respect
said
that.
he said he was planning to do this despite having more debt than anyone in Australia by channeling the considerable equity he has amassed in his properties into additional purchases. Chris, what is equity? Can I just ask that out in the open, in public on this podcast? I don't know what equity is.
I'm pretty sure it's imaginary money.
Okay.
It's like where you say you have money and people are like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Can I have some equity then? Can I say I have $10 billion equity.
It's weird because you can't. He can. You can't, though.
He can. I can't
But
say
unfortunately,
equity.
you can't. And if you knew why, the system would collapse. But, like, you're not allowed to, and that's cool and fine.
Right,
and
exactly.
normal.
Right, sure. The total estimated value of his properties was more than $50 million, he said. Just sell your
Okay.
houses then and fucking get, you know...
I love the big Trump energy of the my debt's bigger than everyone else's debt.
Well, yeah,
Like-
he's been really inspired there, hasn't he?
That's like a really self-destructive big dick contest sort of thing.
Absolutely.
It's like, I've got way more gonorrhea than anybody else has.
I'm way more addicted to cocaine than anyone else in Australia. And you're like, well, congratulations, Mr. Birch.
I've had way more accidental children than anybody else. Like,
I pay way more child support than anyone else in Australia.
I pay $2 million in child support. What do you pay?
And you're like, well, Mr. Birch, I don't in fact pay any child support. Not because I don't pay it, but because I don't have children to pay it for. Let me continue. Mr. Birch, the founder of an investment advisory company called Binvested, purchased his first round of properties shortly after the Sydney housing market went into tailspin in 2004.
Fucking awesome.
He was still a teenager at the time and working multiple menial jobs to fund the purchase, but benefited from a weaker market and falling prices as the harbour city went into a slump. Probably low-key benefited from parent money there too, but...
Yeah, I don't see how
Sure,
that's legit.
sure.
I don't think working at the fish and chip shop is going to get you enough dough to buy, more than a box.
As a teenager, yes, precisely.
As a teenager, if I got $200, I was like, whoa, this is hot shit. Like,
And then you
that's
go to
a lot of
Sanity
money.
and buy some CDs.
Exactly. Oh, I loved Sanity. I miss Sanity.
Sanity still exists in regional towns. I don't think it
Yeah.
exists in cities anymore.
That's my favorite thing about when I go home. It's not seeing my family, it's seeing Sanity.
You see Sanity, you see your Supre, you see your JJs.
See all my good friends, Just Jeans and Sanity.
I'm pretty sure. I know in my high school, right? And this is back in like 2000s, early 2000s, whatever. You were either a Supre girl or a JJ's girl. There was no in between.
I did not. I was a Kmart boy.
Well,
I
that's
was
okay.
actually no. I was a Target. A Target, as my mum loves to call it.
Yeah, of
My
course.
mum. I Skyped my mum last night, and she was very upset about all the Targets closing down.
Oh, that's a shame.
and-
The Target.
Yeah,
I'm
so
pretty sure Target is what every woman from regional Australia calls Target.
yeah. I remember I said "Viva la Revolution" about something when I was on the call with my mum, and she was like, "I think you mean Vive la Revolution," and I was like, "You sound like such an asshole, but you also say Target, so it tracks." Love you, mum.
Anyway, I'm going to continue this. Many of Mr. Birch's subsequent properties were purchased during the global financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. The properties were usually cheap homes in lower income Sydney suburbs such as Mount Druitt or houses in southeast Queensland purchased below market value. Also, fuck you, mate.
Fuck off.
Just like, he's just getting cheap homes in low income suburbs. Like, just that trash, you know.
Just like maybe go fuck. He's like actively trying to gentrify.
Oh,
these
he's doing
places.
gentrification single-handedly. That's what he does. They quickly shot up in value after the global financial crisis passed, allowing him to draw equity out of the properties to use for additional loans on even more properties. Yikes.
I hope he gets hit by a bus.
Yeah. Banks were usually willing to continue giving him loans for the new purchases because the properties were cash flow positive, meaning the rents were higher than mortgage repayments. He also purchased some properties through trusts. Chris, I'm reading all of this and I'm like, if this is true, right, if this is cash flow positive and you're making more money on these houses than you're spending on mortgage, how are you still $18 million in debt?
He bought all of the PlayStation games. He bought 100% of them. He got his PlayStation and he was
Right.
like, go to the store, select all, buy. And it did cost him about $18 million, so he is paying that off slowly but surely.
It's like I'm reading this, right, and I'm like, if
He
I'm
went to a Sanity and he said, I'll have one of everything.
He went to one of those like really expensive donut stores that used to be existing, like Donut Time.
He says, "I'll take everything you have, please."
I'll take the lot, he said in the voice of Harry Potter from the first film.
And he had to get on the phone to his bank and was like, "No, I'm serious. No, I'm all right. I'll give you authorization. Just give me because the bank was like, this is not happening. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to spend $1 million on donuts."
I'm like, this guy is supposedly like the owner of some like investment company and giving investment advice. I don't know about you. I mean, he's got his equity, right? But equity's not, it's play money. It's not real money. It's theoretical money.
It's monopoly money. Also,
right. Exactly.
Sorry, just going back to that Harry Potter thing. Fucking rude of Harry Potter to just flash his big money wads in front of Ron, a famously poor child. Just really flexing on his
just, like,
broke
friend.
Like,
well, you know, Harry had an abusive childhood, whatever, so what? And surely then he's got more empathy than to just...
Doesn't excuse him being a dick.
Chris, he knows what it feels like to have cash flexed on him. He's had that his whole life from his cousin Dudley. And then it makes it even worse because he knows that feeling of being flexed on. He wants Ron to feel like that.
The whole Harry Potter series, in retrospect, is just kind of about Harry being like, "I'm your friend, Ron, but I am the better one of the two of us.
I'm the cool one, remember? I'm the chosen one, and I've got big cash money, and you don't."
And then in the fourth one, there's a whole subplot about how Ron's kind of sick of it, and so he gets mad at Harry because he's always the center of attention. And then the end of that plot is Ron just kind of gets over it.
Ron just has to learn to, stop being such a pussy baby.
Because Harry's space Jesus, or whatever the fuck he is.
Wizard Jesus.
Jesus.
I'm going to continue with this story. We've got him well off track.
Yeah.
He said current conditions were similar to a decade ago in that buyers were dropping out of the market, fearing it was a bad time to become saddled with mortgage debt. Yeah, no shit. People are smart. This was thinning competition for properties at a time
statistically inaccurate. Please continue.
Sellers were becoming increasingly open to negotiating prices. The people running from the market are leaving behind excellent deals, he said. I'm really excited. I'm smiling ear to ear. People are saying the property market is going to crash, but it's not going to crash. It's going to go up.
I've firstly heard that before. And it's been wrong every time.
I sincerely hope there's a crash just for this guy's getting
just the Schadenfreude. But I like the idea of negotiations because I think it would be really fun to push it in the way that you push like a Gumtree negotiation.
Sure.
You're trying to sell your PlayStation on Gumtree, and you're like, I'd like $300, and someone's like, how does 50 sound? And I just want to bring that energy to trying to buy a house, you know. So they're like, this house, $800,000, and I'll be like, how does 50 sound? And they'll be like, 50,000. I'll be like, no, $50. And I'll break into your home and massage you with a broom.
Right,
and that's
exactly.
like the little bonus on top.
Yeah, well, that's I'm not going to charge you $5,000 for it.
That's a good deal.
I'll do it for free. And then you'll be like, okay, well,
it's pretty good.
And you know what? You will know the right address where they live.
That's true, because it's written on the contract.
It's not going to be a huge debacle. I'm going to continue reading this, right? He said, I'm going to skip some parts. The serial investor said that he was banking on property prices rising in the near future because the government's economic stimulus during the pandemic, which he said was akin to printing money. He added he was not fearful of making further purchases because he didn't expect interest rates, which are the lowest on record, to be raised in years. I have so much debt. I don't know anyone else with $18 million in debt. But rates won't go up, Mr. Birch said. Hey, if you're listening to this, the person who makes the rates, can you just chuck rates up just now?
Just grab the little rate style and just turn it up a couple of clicks.
Just click up the rate style.
Doesn't need to be a lot. Just a couple of clicks.
I don't want any of the people I know to be fucked over, but just click it up a few for this.
I think it'd be worth it though.
Oh, it'd be worth. If I was going to suffer from this interest rate rise, but I knew that this guy was going to get fucked over big time on his $18 million debt, I would be like, sure.
Let's turn that into $180 million debt. That's all I have to say about it.
That's a great idea.
Let's stick a zero on it.
Now, I'm just going to read this last little bit here. It said, they can't raise rates because so many businesses are in debt. It would destroy the economy. We're going to be stuck with this cheap money for a long time. His views on the market have attracted heavy criticism, and some people have told him to lay off the drugs.
Some people have told him he is a piece of shit and that maybe he could stand to be
Some
less
people
of a
have
shithead.
questioned whether that white stain under his nose is really a moustache or just permanent cocaine.
It could be jizz, you never know. It could be both.
Well, who knows? I don't really want to get into that too much.
That's
His
fair.
opinions also run contrary to those of many economists who have forecast the housing market may not recover pre-COVID-19 levels for years. I hope not. Research group CoreLogic recently noted the Australian housing market was on the cusp of another downturn.
Whoop, whoop.
Yes. Let's sink these prices just for this guy who is a piece of shit. Chris, do you have another story?
I've got one story that I think you're going to enjoy / hate that we should end on.
Great, that sounds wonderful. Let's do it.
So you're familiar that our good friend Elon decided to launch he launched his big rocket today.
Yes.
So because I want to
That's the only Elon rocket launches I want to know about is actual rockets, not ones that impregnate
at him.
Grimes. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: so he's obviously feeling pretty good about himself. Shot his boys into space. So I'm going to make fun of his girlfriend. And this is this is a story from stereogum.com.
Okay.
And the headline is, "Here's the legal contract for Grimes' selling of her soul."
Sorry, there's a contract?
Grimes is selling her soul as part of an online art exhibition called Selling Out. In the show's titular work, the highest bidder will receive a legal document conveying ownership of a percentage of Grimes' soul.
Chris, I feel like Elon Musk is just going to go right ahead and snap that up.
I mean, he's already got that based on her behaviour.
Right, but he will feel jealous about the fact that someone else could own a piece of her soul, theoretically. And,
I'm going to buy it, and then I'm also going to shoot a rocket into space just to make him mad. To be like, you're not hot shit,
just
Elon.
to flex on him.
And then I'll tweet, I'm going to take the blue pill. And then he'll be like, what does that mean? Anyway, in the show's titular work, so blah, 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 Grimes' soul, I really wanted to collaborate with my lawyer on art, Grimes said in an interview.
Sorry. Oh, every time I visit my lawyer, I don't have a lawyer, but if I had a lawyer, the first thing I'd want to do is do an art collaboration, because that's what lawyers are for, right?
The idea of fantastical art in the form of legal documents just seems very intriguing to me.
Fucking hell.
She's like, for someone who makes good music, she's such an asshole. Selling Out officially opened yesterday on Macarone Los Angeles Gallery's website. Selling Out is executed as a contract in which Grimes sells a fraction of her soul, formalizing the idea that every time an artist sells a piece of their art, part of their soul is sold with it, the piece's
God, that's so
description
lame,
reads.
Chris.
The purchaser will enter into a contractual agreement that outlines the terms of ownership and ultimately the connection to the joy of artistic expression. The site also includes a 3-page term sheet summarizing the principal terms of the proposed sale. This is how it defines Grimes' soul. Soul, the soul of Grimes.
Okay.
1. Consists of the spiritual, immaterial, and immortal essence Grimes, which exists independently of and distinctly from her physical being, but is the essence of life itself. 2. Is mutable in time, but immutable in space, containing eternal truth and wisdom.
Ugh.
3. Is imbued with the knowledge of the good and with honor. 4. Contains perceptive, rational, and contemplative powers that enable it to be close to the source of all things in the universe.
I hate everything I'm hearing. Can I just throw that out there?
Unrelated to any of this, I'm getting a direct message on Twitter from Nick the Communist, our wonderful listener, who's saying that he's currently in the, I quote, "I'm in the fucking news getting arrested, Mayo, like at a protest, not being an actual criminal."
Okay.
So, Nick, I hope you do okay, man. You seem like a cool dude.
Yeah.
I hope they don't mistreat you. I guess you've won our first giveaway by texting whilst we record. This is not what I had in mind.
I didn't expect anyone would do that, but look, you've had a bit of a rough time. Jeez.
Good luck.
Good luck to you. Good luck to... Yeah.
Fuck, let me know how you're doing after this. Shit.
Figure out the giveaway.
Yeah. I'll send you some of Grimes' soul.
You buy a piece of it and send it to him, yeah.
This is what you get if you purchase her soul. Dividends. The holders of the soul shares shall be entitled to share in the joy and happiness created by Grimes' soul.
Oh my God.
As and when such joy and happiness is created from time to time. Such joy and happiness may include flashes of brilliant white light and an ethereal feeling. Even if Grimes dies, you get to keep your shares of her soul.
So she's not going to heaven or hell. She just, you get to keep parts of her soul.
When Grimes returns to the ether, you get to keep part of it.
Right.
Liquidation/dissolution. In the event of any liquidation or dissolution of Grimes, holder of soul shares shall be entitled to remain connected to the soul wherever it comes to reside. A liquidation of dissolution of Grimes shall be deemed to include her physical being no longer being among us.
Sure. So let me get this clear, right? So let's say that I'm a bad girl. And I'm not a good Catholic, and I go to hell. But Grimes, for some reason, she's Elon's paid off the angels up there.
Elon paid off God.
So Grimes is in heaven. If I own a piece of her soul, does that mean it's like a timeshare property, and from time to time, like I can pop up to heaven, because I own a piece of Grimes' soul, and Grimes is in heaven.
See, that's not my understanding of it. My understanding is you don't actually get to experience the soul itself outside of, like, your share portfolio, but you do get the dividends. So occasionally you'll get, whilst you're being eternally tortured, you will get flashes of a brilliant white light and an ethereal feeling.
Oh, okay. That's good. Occasionally.
Although apparently there is a prerequisite called the goodness covenant reversion right.
Well, that's not very good. That's I've already my chances are already lost then.
Yeah, going to hell I think might actually void your contract with Grimes.
Damn it. That's a shame. That's a shame.
According as a continuing and absolute condition of the ownership of the soul share, each investor is bound to live a kind, good, and ethical life and must treat others with humanity and compassion. The goodness covenant. Which is fucking rich from someone dating Elon Musk, but
yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm not. Just some of the comments on this are very good. So the Stereogum comments, shout out to the Stereogum comments, they're always very good. Blockhead writes, "Phew, was worried this might end up being stupid." Follow Blockhead and Coke Party on Twitter. They're actually both very funny.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to read of this story because it's the most insufferable thing I've ever heard of. If you do want to sign up, get a bit of Grimes' soul, I'm going to see if I can buy Grimes' soul, and I will give it to Nick because he's fucking earned it by standing up against
Absolutely.
for what's right.
He's got the goodness covenant right there.
Yeah, I feel like we try and avoid taking too many political stances outside of like what we personally experience on this show. But like, honestly, good on you to everyone in the US right now. It sounds like a fucking nightmare, and I hope you guys are okay.
Yeah. Stay strong.
Nick,
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Fuck the police, basically.
Yeah. Nick, good luck to you. I hope that, you stay safe.
And get in touch. We'll work out your prize.
Well, we made that bit as a joke, and now we've kind of had to...
Now we have to do it because your thing has weight.
We have to follow through because that text message or the message that he sent through, look, you deserve a little prize, a little giveaway.
I will send you a picture of a cat if I get it. And also maybe, I don't know, I'll think of something funny.
We'll think of something.
Let's wrap up because this has got me on edge worrying about our fan being arrested.
Yeah. Look, let's wrap up.
Thank you everybody for listening. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram at Red Menace Cast or on Facebook at the Red Menace Podcast. You can find our merchandise on tpublic.com. Go to your local police station, burn it down, or at least protest outside it. Stand up for what's right. Black Lives Matter. My name's Chris Bolson. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Free Nick. Good luck and good night.
Good night.